All right. Welcome, welcome. Happy new moon. And Navratri is just was learning about the new moons, which new moons make a Navratri, because there's like 5 every year, but this is the big Navratri, first night of the 9 nights of the goddess. So welcome everybody. And welcome Laura. She is here, our guest tonight for this blood moon. Um, so basically, hi Laura, welcome.
Sorry, I was having trouble getting in.
Yeah, I'm always having some sort of trouble technologically. I feel like every single month is something different. um, but it's kind of funny because every time we do this, the technology is changing, but the cycles and nature, it stays the same. So that's pretty cool. So I'm a little disconnected from my voice because I've got my phone here for the video, and then my computer, which is over here for the screen sharing. So I'm not intentionally not looking at you guys. So sorry if that seems a little distracting. Um, I'm going to introduce the blood moon, the theme for this month. This is the blood moon. So sometimes it's called the harvest moon. I feel like people are afraid of the word blood. There already is a harvest moon that happens in September, and that's when we harvest the vegetable crops, the last of the vegetable crops and things like that, kind of bountiful harvest. But this second harvest moon, or blood moon as it's traditionally called, is when we harvest or cull the herds. It's when the hunting happens. People's livestock are thinned so that they can get through the winter. Cold temperatures means two things. You can't grow anything, maybe if you have a greenhouse, but it also means you can store in you can store meats and things in the cold. This is the traditional, pagan ways and old ways of doing things. And today we still see a lot of these traditions sort of popping up in our little holidays like Halloween and things like that. Of course, today a lot of us aren't eating meat products, or because they're not really doing it the way they used to with the slaughtering and the hunting. It's more of like mass production and tons of hormones, which are a major issue, and we're going to talk about that tonight because the topic for tonight is about our blood tide. So just like the moon, our body goes through cycles, phases. All right, so um, this is called the sorting moon or the culling moon. It's like thinning the herd. This is a month of choices and letting go. Like, what can we let go of? Um, the last month, harvest moon, was all about abundance and that, and then the next month is the death moon. So we're kind of caught in this in between of culling, sorting, or blood, like hunting, bloodshed moon. The tarot cards we have are Judgment, Awakening to Evaluation. Oh, guys, we're having some people that can't get on tonight, so I'm just getting some emails right now or some text messages and things. Um, Let me see if I can send a message. I'm sorry to leave you guys hanging. Ooh. Let's see. Yeah, if anyone is in the group chat, can help them out to get in there. Sarah's not having luck, and Kellen. And so, okay, I'm gonna try not to be too distracted here. I hope that people can get on that want to get on, and if not, they can watch the replay that'll be posted later. All right, so the tarot cards are the eights, the cards of assessment. So right now we're assessing, we've gone 10 months into the year now. We should have a pretty good idea of, what we reap is what we sow kind of thing. We started with the seed moon. We were planting all those seeds, and now it's like the harvest. And now we're like thinking about, okay, what didn't work? What do we need to cut out? So assessment, sorting, and evaluation. We're in the Libra new moon right now. Of course, the new moon is in the same sign as the zodiac sun sign right now is Libra time. So tonight's the Libra new moon and Libra sun. So it's about balance and finding balance. So where in our lives are we overstressed, or we have too much or not enough, and finding that equilibrium to really sustain us for the coming winter, for the rest of the year. There's a lot of podcasts going around. There's always like buzzwords, but right now it's burnout. How are we burned out, and what can we cut back on so that we can make space for what's important in our life? So that's kind of how we can take these modernize the idea of culling and sorting. If you're not actually going out and hunting or slaughtering any of the animals that you raise this time of year, what is it in your life that you can cut back or cut out? What's not working anymore? Or what don't you need to get through the winter? And things like that. I know for me personally, I'm tying up loose ends, selling my house, downsizing my possessions. I'm always kind of trying to do that, constantly acquiring things and then having to let things go. I'm also not teaching any classes other than these online new moon classes. So for me, personally taking some classes, taking dance class, doing yoga classes online, and just not teaching right now, because for me that's something I was just letting go for the time being. Not forever, but for now. Okay, let me catch up on the charts. Oh, Ileana's a cusp baby, on the cusp of Libra and Scorpio, so this is right in your time. And I know I've talked with you, Ileana, about hormones and high estrogen and things like that. So it's really cool that this is your month, with Scorpio and it's things, and Libra with Venus. All right. I think I'm all caught up on the chat and the messages. People that are here. We've got Heather in. It looks like Sarah got in, so that's great. And Jen, awesome. Welcome, ladies, people, friends. I'm trying to be really inclusive, and because Laura is trained in all that, and they are super good at pronouns and being inclusive in that way. So we're looking at the full moon now ahead. It's going to be October 20th, and the full moon is always in the opposite sign of where the new moon or the sun is. So what's opposite of Libra? We have Aries. So the Aries full moon always is happening during this blood moon time. It's the hunter's moon. So when that full moon comes out in October, you better bet the animals are doing their hunting. The weak are not going to survive the winter. The plants have died back, and the predators are hungry. The weak prey are seeking shelter. The old, they're just not going to make it through the winter, and this is the time of that. So we're really tapping into that hunting, blood, death, and this is in this time of the year, and it's not a capitalist idea. This whole time period, it's not Halloween's not a capitalist holiday. It actually has roots in all these traditions, these cycles. So traditionally in the pagan, Celtic, Druid, Gaelic calendar, Samhain is is the eve of hollow meaning hollowed ground, like graves underground. So the hollow eve, Halloween, is the night before the dead. That's what Halloween kind of traditionally is, before the Day of the Dead. And next month, because it's the death moon, next month I'm going to get more into the Day of the Dead and death and more things like that. But just kind of observing this now, because Samhain and Halloween are going to happen before the next new moon meeting. So just kind of I'm sure it's on all our radars anyway. But it is traditionally a time where the veils are thin, the liminal threshold, as it were, speaking to the dead, honoring dead relatives. The opposite in the pagan New Year of Samhain is Beltane. So May 1st, May Day, that's when traditionally we celebrate unions, marriages, coming together, sex, rituals like that. And, 6 months later, we have Samhain, which is honoring the dead. And yeah, so divination has always been a thing to do this time of year. Um, so we can read about that. And of course, I mentioned the Navratri. Tonight is the first night of Maha Navratri, the big Navratri. There's 5 throughout the year, but this is like the big one. Navratri is 9 nights of the goddess. So I have a little link there if you want to follow along more and learn more about that. All right. I'm kind of rushing through because I know Laura she's a postpartum doula and she has a baby to tend to tonight. So let's get right to our topic of the evening, which is going to be our blood moon phase. So our follicular ovulation, menstruation cycle is 28 days, and so is the new moon, full moon. Oh, where did that awesome picture go? This one's different. So new moon, which is tonight, would be representative of the menstrual phase of our cycle. It doesn't always happen. Of course, there are full moon bleeders. We can bleed any time of the month, but the length of the cycle in a normal period is going to be 28 days. And if you don't bleed with the new moon, that doesn't mean you're not normal, okay? We can bleed whenever. It is nice to sync up with the moon. I feel like when my hormones are in balance, I do sync up with the moon, and I was at the beginning of the year, and now I'm not. So definitely using the period care guidelines that I've talked with Laura about. But the first quarter, representing the follicular phase of when your hormones are building, energy level rises. So we can kind of map the moon phase with our cycle phase. And I may just come back to this so that we can get to Laura's stuff. Yeah, full moon would be ovulatory, when we're super fertile, go out, party, celebrate, gather with friends, express, be creative. The last quarter is when PMS starts to arise. We're releasing, letting go, and then it just begins again with the new moon, when you're making new intentions and resting and taking time. Yay, thanks. I'm so glad, Kellen, you're here. Thank you. Okay. Okay. I'm going to introduce Laura now. I met Laura in Thailand, actually. That's where we first met in 2017, and she is from Maryland, so I'm able to connect with her in many different ways. Her and I both went to the same Thai bodywork school, and she continued her Thai studies. I just barely scratched the surface, and she went to all the modules that the Woven Body Studio had. She went to Thailand. Her and I were there together along with 13 other people. She's a postpartum doula currently. She's a pelvic steaming expert, menstruation consultant. Like I said, I've had her consultations, her intake, and tried to, figure out what was going on with my cycle and how to get me on the regular. She really helped me. She's helped me with herbal emmenagogues and steaming to induce periods and menstruation after possible conception. So she's helped me through all this stuff. So yeah, I'm super happy to have her here. Gua sha is a big part of what you do, Laura. I know with the scraping and your postpartum stuff, helping mamas get lactating, doing the scraping. So yeah, Laura, if you want to just take over, and I'll let you share your screen if you need that. You should be able to. Maybe I can just pin you.
Hello, I'm Laura. Thank you for the introduction, Roma. And yes, I would like to share my screen. And I will, okay, okay, it says you cannot start screen sharing while the other participant is sharing.
Okay, I will stop sharing then. Let's see. Let's see. Stop share. There it is. All right.
Okay, cool. So,
Oh, now I can look at my phone.
all right. This thing's like in my way. Let me see.
I've been so like avoiding Facebook, but I feel like I have to for some things. And
Okay. Can you guys see my screen right now?
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So you can see that, right? It's good?
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. So it's kind of cool that the topic is blood moon, because when I made my logo, I was like, it looks like a blood moon. And I was so excited about that because it happened by accident. But then I was like, this is awesome. So yeah, I have a business. It's called Reviving Fire. I started in 2017, and really the things that I got really into were because of my own health issues. So I got really into the full body herbal steaming, gua sha therapy, and the pelvic steaming. So my specific, I had a missing period for years, and steaming can actually help bring on a missing period quite quickly. And it helps with a lot of gynecological issues that are just like, there's not a lot of solutions sometimes at the gynecology office, and steaming can be so effective. And just period care. Like I've had people's periods shift dramatically, like just from doing period care, and they didn't do any steaming. They just like implemented some simple traditional protocols that are really from like my training was Thai medicine, but it's in every indigenous culture, it's very similar. Period care and postpartum care, it's pretty much the same across the board. So like I've also had some like Chinese medicine training, and it's so similar to the Thai. And pelvic steaming, also people call it vaginal steaming, yoni steaming. It's done worldwide postpartum. Like there's not really a country that was not doing that. It's gotten lost more with like modern times, but it's been done all over the world. So yeah, I'm currently postpartum doula, and I'll do steaming with my clients sometimes, but that's mostly what I'm doing right now. So if anyone is really interested, there's a really good directory where you can work with practitioners that have similar trainings as me. It's a really nice practice for sure. So I just always like to credit my teachers. Um, I won't go into all of who they are, but you know, you guys will have the slideshow, so you can always see like this is who I studied with, this is where I studied, and I wouldn't know any of this information without these people. And so it's like one of them is my Thai bodywork teacher, another one is my vaginal steaming teacher, runs the Perry Steam Hydrotherapy Institute. Chris Gonzalez is an acupuncturist who teaches there, as well as Raquel Lemus also is a midwife who teaches as part of the Perry Steam program. So this is really, this is like a picture when my teacher went to Thailand, and I've also studied, you know, I was with Roma in Thailand, and that was their vaginal steaming setup. And it's like just a nice picture. And those were some of the teachers listed from where the Thai medicine knowledge came from. I think this link, I hope this link is working. So if you all want to check it out later, it just shows some traditional postpartum care, and which are a lot of the therapies that I ended up doing. And the reason I liked those therapies is that they're very nourishing. So they're also good for people who have chronic illness. And I have dealt with a lot of chronic illness things. So I was really drawn to those therapies for my own healing as well. So I just wanted to talk about, you know, like what does like a balanced cycle look like? And so our cycle is it like when we're in balance, it's going along with the moon, and a moon cycle is 29.5 days. So our cycle is usually like a 28 to 30 day cycle when it's balanced, 3 to 4 days of bleeding. The blood, ideally, we want it just like this fresh red color, a medium flow, like good consistency, not watery, not mucusy, not like a bad smell. You will feel a bit of it's very normal to feel a bit of like, you know, heaviness and a little bit of like cramping to like but not like painful. There shouldn't be pain. And once like you have a full uterine cleanse, you won't see tissue and clots coming out anymore. So it's not to say we don't want them to come out, but when everything is in balance, like you won't be having a lot of clots or pieces of tissue. And once your cycle is balanced, there would not be like significant tenderness of breasts or bloating or the acne or the headaches and the stuff that you get in the PMS. So there's a really good book that has, it's like a really good book to have on hand as a reference. It's called The Fifth Vital Sign. And basically there's this concept, and this is definitely a concept taught in traditional medicine, in Thai medicine, in Chinese medicine. And it's also like kind of picking up even today in like the Western medicine, I guess. Like The Fifth Vital Sign is a very Western book. But like the period is a diagnostic tool basically in traditional medicine, where it shows when something is out of balance. So it's really useful and helpful and like a gift to be able to assess our health every cycle, and like you can kind of read the period basically. And it's really actually like the reason it's kind of a nice gift is because every time we have a period we can reflect and be like, it's not negative if you see things that are out of balance. It's like just it's just telling you something. So the things that are really I really like this chart because if you have the light pink blood. Well, okay, let me just start with the brownish color. So when your blood is like a bit brown, it's just like it's basically oxidized old blood, and so steaming will turn your blood red pretty quickly. Like that's the first thing you notice when you start to steam. Sometimes when you start to steam, like when I started to steam, my blood turned revealed that it was actually pink, because once the oxidized blood was gone, I could see the real color of my blood. And so pink is blood deficiency, which makes sense for me, because I'm nauseous from anxiety a lot. So like it's hard for me to like get enough nourishment. And so the pink just is showing that you're not getting nourished enough. And also my blood is a watery consistency, which is showing the same thing. It's like blood deficiency. So it's like, okay, I need to eat more food and more nutrient dense food. So I can literally see that in my period. And I've also seen it change when I did like this thing where I was eating way more vegetables, and I literally saw my blood color change to like the red that it's like supposed to be. So you can actually like watch your period change based on different things you're doing. It will change based on a bunch of things, but it's always telling you something. So the neon red, it's also a sign like when people are in perimenopause and they start having like maybe a lot of bleeding, usually they're like having heat issues, and their blood is usually a neon red color if that's what's going on. So you can just read the period. It's very cool. You guys will have that chart. Um, the most common thing is people having the brown blood, and we'll get into why that is in like some of the next slides.
Yeah, that was me, the brown blood and the clots.
Yeah, so the main reason for like a lot of basically, and one thing I just want to say is like our uterus it's a organ and it's also a muscle. And so, we all know about liver cleanses, and we're like, yeah, like let's do a liver cleanse. Of course, we need to cleanse our liver. Like we need it to be working optimally. And the uterus is the same. The period is literally a uterine cleanse every month. And so period care, which we'll talk about, helps you have an optimal uterine cleanse. And if you're not getting an optimal uterine cleanse, that's when you'll get like the brown blood or the clots. And so just like doing some period care, like can help everything come out on your period. Okay. Why isn't the button working? Ah, no, the clicky thing stopped. Oh, here, wait, let me do it here. Yay. Okay. So moon time is the period time, and I like it. The analogy I like the best is that it's like the seasons. So your period time is like winter, and it's when you basically hibernate. And if you kind of start noticing, most people don't feel like going to parties or like talking or going to work on their period. Like if we lived in a world where we could just do whatever the fuck we wanted, which I know we don't, um like you'd probably want to like be curled up on the couch with warm things and like a heating pad and like watching Netflix or like, doing whatever your favorite thing is to do. um Traditionally that was when people would uh they would go and chill and
Like
man,
red
that's when they
tents.
would work with herbs. They would do like, yeah, they would be in the red tents. They would do things with herbs. They would maybe do like things where they could just sit. Like you need to be like kind of resting more and not like up on your feet all the time. So like crafting and it's just a nourishing, like more restful, scale it back kind of time. And
No,
then,
and there's cultures that women aren't supposed to do anything when they're on their cycle. It's like bad luck if a woman is cooking or doing anything, really. They're just supposed to be separate and,
yeah,
relax. And with other women, when we sync up, when we live with a lot of other women, often we just sync up. So we're all in it together, sitting on hay bales and rags and towels and talking.
yeah. And if you can usually like, well, I'll finish this thing real quick, but so the pre-ovulation is the follicular phase. It's akin to spring. So the way that winter is like, when you have crops and you let it be, I think the word is fallow, like you don't grow anything on it for a season because that increases fertility. And if you just like keep growing stuff all the time, it literally strips the soil. And so our bodies are the same way. It's like the period is like you let things just do nothing. And then you have the springtime where you are building up the soil. And so your body literally starts to build a lining. And I like call it like it's like building the soil to plant the seeds. And then ovulation is like summertime when everything is like very energetic. Um, and it has come to fruition basically. And that's when people are, so during ovulation, our hormones are peaking in a way where we are more immune to pain. So it's like the best time to get tattoos and piercings is when you're ovulating. um, and you're going to feel better doing public speaking and these kinds of things and like performing. Like that's when it's going to feel the best. And then the premenstrual phase is like fall. And so with fall, that's when you go and like gather all your supplies. You're like, let me go to the grocery store. My period's coming. And it's like preparing for winter. And so that's when people start to feel like if you're kind of tracking your cycle, you'll notice you're just better at different things in different times. So in that time that's when people are like, let me pay my taxes. I mean, that's when they're doing like their like prep stuff or like they feel, you might notice you have different skills at different points in your cycle. Like journaling is really nice on your period. So the 3 golden opportunities, that's what they call it in Chinese medicine: period time, postpartum time, and like perimenopause. Those times are looked at that if you practice like a certain type of care during those times, you can like really optimize your health or create health issues depending on the care that you do. And that's why they call them the golden opportunities, because it can be like exponentially positive actually. So when I try to like help people balance their cycles, I don't really even have them focus on the other phases. I'm like, just focus on the days you're bleeding and your cycle will significantly change if you just focus on the care for those few days. Where did that little thing go? Come back. Okay, so some things that are like really big, like the biggest, when someone comes to me and they're like having some issues with their cycle, some of the first things let me do this next slide real quick and now I'll go back to this one. Okay, not that one. What's happening? I want this, I want this slide. Okay, so this is kind of like when I learned this, I was like, whoa. So basically, people that are assigned male at birth, they have a testosterone cycle, which is a 24-hour cycle where you get up in the morning, your testosterone is the highest in the morning and it's the lowest at night. And it's a 24-hour cycle and it's the same every day. This is why they do most of the medical studies on men. And they're like, it's too complicated to like do studies on women, which like fucks us over. But they're they're on like basically the capitalist system we're in, where it's like a 9 to 5 and you never get any breaks and it just keeps going and going and going. That is designed for testosterone male bodies. Like that is okay for their health. For people with moon cycles, for people that bleed every month, for people who are driven by estrogen and progesterone, that system is like it's not optimal for our health. So it's unfortunate. But it's why like there's a lot of issues with periods, basically, because, and it's not our fault. It's like the society we live in is not set up for us to thrive. And there are things that can help though, for sure. But I just wanted to touch on that piece of information before I got into whatever that other slide was. So
Yeah, I like how you related it, the 4 phases of our cycles to the sun seasons. That was nice. You know, it also kind of relates to the moon phases, but for us to connect to the sun in a different way than the 24-hour 9 to 5 idea, but like the solar rotations around the
yeah,
earth.
so our bodies, that's like male bodies. Our bodies cycle with the moon. And so the reason I wanted to show you that first was there's all these like diet fads now that people are doing. And while they might be suitable for a testosterone body, the keto diet and no carbohydrates those are needed for fertility for moon cyclers, and periods will disappear when people do the keto diet. Like they'll just go away. So that's like one of the things that, like a couple common things when people are when they're like, I don't have a period anymore, or my cycle got really long. That's like one of the first questions I ask them. Another thing is like doing fasting and cleanses on your period, so that or during the postpartum period. Those are times when you like really want a lot of rest, a lot of warm, nourishing, like nutrient dense foods. It's not a time for cleanses. And sometimes people that are doing cleanses on the period, you'll find that you'll start excessively bleeding. And so if you're like doing a lot of fasting and you notice you start having your period like shorten, or you start bleeding every 2 weeks, or you're bleeding a lot on your period, that's one of the main things I look at first. The best time to do a liver cleanse is in the luteal phase. If you're like, when should I do my liver cleanse? Do it in the luteal phase, and that'll be like the optimal time for your cycle. So my teacher, she reads at our website, so it probably looks different now. There is a massive amount of information on the Steamy Chick website. And she has this vaginal steaming map, and you can literally click on any country in the world. And she has resources of vaginal steaming from each country. Sometimes it's a story, sometimes it's like a document, sometimes it's a book someone found, but whatever she's found from that country, it is listed when you like search that country. So it's really interesting. You can like look up your heritage and see like the steaming history there. How do
I just wanted to kind of touch on the liver cleanse real quick, because the liver does so much in ridding our body of toxins, and today we have so many hormones in foods from animal products, and so many chemicals coming in from our foods and from cleaning products, and just all the plastics and everything we touch, like carpets and mattresses, and you know, flame retardants and everything. Like that's really why we're looking at the liver when we when we're talking about like menstruation and getting normal periods back on track, liver cleanse is because of that, right?
Well, the reason I was touching on it is, so that is true. And also estrogen is metabolized by the liver. So liver cleanses can play a significant role in getting periods regulated, but the main reason I mentioned it was because people are a little bit obsessed with cleanses nowadays, and they do them like all the time, and they also do them like on their period. And I find that that will like kind of do weird things to people's cycles.
So cleanse after ovulation before menstruation is the best time.
Yeah. So I'm not saying you
like a
have to do a
7-day.
cleanse. I'm just saying if you're into them, like strategically choose the time. You can get like it can be very depleting to do your cleanse on like during your period, because you're already losing blood. You're already colder during that time. It's just not the best time. But yeah, doing liver cleanses will also help with your period. Yeah. So I don't know if anyone has tried steaming yet, like pelvic steaming, but it's basically pelvic herbal steaming or smoking. It traditionally, in like ancient texts, it's called fumigation therapy. And it's just a method of delivering herbal medicine via steam or via smoke to the pelvic floor organs, the muscles, the tissues, and the mucous membranes. And these are some pictures of a home office space that I had. I'm not currently seeing people in there, but.
And on my slide, I had a picture of a steam you did at a yoga studio in Baltimore.
Oh, nice.
That was the public one. I think there was like 40 or 50. I felt like it was at least 30, 25 or 30 people there.
Could not have been, I don't think it could have been more than 20, 'cause no, that wouldn't have fit, but.
We had two full, that big tent full of with two different groups.
Yeah, so Roma actually came and like assisted me. I used to do these red tent, and I would set up these huge red tents, and it was full body herbal steaming. It was really nice. We do like 20 women. It was great. I personally love full body herbal steaming the most. Like it's my favorite thing. Well, gua sha too. And so I have like a little full body steam set up in my basement, and I just always keep it set up. So if I think, Roma, do you have your little moxas with you?
Yes, I have my whole little setup behind me here.
Can people can see both of us right now? I don't know, can they? Because when I talk about this, can you hold up the smoke?
Yeah, I can look at
the moxa smoke to show them.
I think I can, if people pin me, that might be helpful. I don't know if I can pin myself. But if I talk, I think, don't I pop up here? Let me
I
get
don't know. Can you see the chat?
I can see it on my other computer.
Okay, well,
wait, maybe I can, I think I can pin myself over here if on my computer. Hang on a second. Pin, but that might just work for me.
Well, so there's
okay.
This pot here is what I prepare the herbal, so there's water, then you put the herbs and you like simmer them, and you basically prepare it like tea. This is like an herbal sauna box, and the pot would be inside of here on a pot holder or on a burner, and you're basically sitting over it. you can also do a setup where you're sitting over moxibustion, which is mugwort, and you literally you light it on fire and it creates like a smoke.
Yeah, these are the moxibustion pellets. I ordered these on Laura's recommendation.
So
Light one.
smoking is done when someone needs consolidating of blood, tonifying, strengthening, someone that is very exhausted, very fatigued, and they can't hold their blood in from that. If you're bleeding every 2 weeks, if you're bleeding for more than 10 days, if you're having cycles that are like every 21 days, cycles that are every 23 days, like I would start someone off doing smoking, and that actually will extend your cycle. It will lessen the bleeding. It tonifies the uterus. If someone's having prolapse or hemorrhoids, that is another type of like tonifying and lifting that the smoke is very effective for that. Steaming can also help, but it's just like smoke is ideal in that situation. Steam, its strong point is softening. It softens scar tissue. It loosens, like it will clean off your uterine wall. So if there's any old blood that's brown, any clots, like if someone has fibroids, these are things where it's like we want the steam. Let's see.
So this is the device that came with my moxibustion pellets. Can you see that, Laura?
Oh, I can't see anything right now, but
Oh, because you're sharing, that's right. So I'm just showing the little, I lit the moxa pellet, and it's in this little brass container that it came with, that you just like stick it on the little stem, and that way it kind of protects you from the heat of it. And you would just basically, I have a chair, what was converted, it used to be a chair. We cut the legs a little shorter and put a hole in the chair, and that's my yoni seat. And so I would just put that under there and sit there with without underwear on, and I put like usually I just wear a skirt, and a very long skirt, and I sit over it. Sometimes I'll just put a blanket over. But yeah, there's the smoking. It's supposed to be the smokeless or something. This is moxa, so it's mugwort. It smells like I'm gonna have some good dreams tonight. Because mugwort is also associated with lucid dreaming. I'm just gonna let that kind of I'm not gonna pelvic steam right now. I'm not gonna smoke my pelvic floor, but I'm showing you guys this. Go ahead.
So something I wanted to kind of say about, so I know most people have issues with their period, and what do I want to say? I guess something that I like to tell people is if you do want to get pregnant, it can be really helpful to come off your birth control for like 1 to 2 years before, because sometimes it can take a while for your cycle to come back and to regulate your cycle. So just like something to know that like just like something to prepare for. I also want to acknowledge that for some people, taking birth control so that they do not bleed, that is the best option for some people due to dysphoria or trauma. And then here, this Fertility Friday, she's a really good resource. The birth controls are, so I'm like I love medication for other things. The reason birth control has a lot of side effects because it's like one of the few medications where you're actually taking it to make something. So like other medications, we take them to feel better or to like fix a problem. This is the only medication or like devices we use to actually create a problem, because fertility is health. It's a sign of health. And so I just like to kind of point that out, that like you are going to have side effects because it's trying to suppress something that is a sign of health. And when people are having really difficult periods, it's really trying to tell you something, like they're clues to their clues. I don't know if that made sense. Sorry.
What kind of birth control do you usually recommend?
So I think,
because I know you've done consultations about removing IUDs and at home and things like that.
you know, so I recommend, there's a Dr. Lara Bryden. I really like, she has a book, but you can also just Google blogs, and she'll literally compare different birth controls and do the pros and cons of each one. I do think, it's a personal decision to be able to just look and be like, what's going on? I think the fertility awareness method is wonderful. It requires a lot of, you have to have like capacity for that. So I don't even necessarily, like, if someone does, that's like great. I like to use condoms. I think for me, for birth controls, if you are taking one, the one to me that does like the least amount of
Like altering, yeah.
So the thing is that we need our hormones for health, and so I don't like to disrupt the hormones. So the IUD that is non-hormonal is like what I would try first for myself, because I don't want to disrupt my hormones. Does that answer your question?
Yes. I mean, I can share that I definitely prefer the fertility awareness over any other method. Condoms where there's any uncertainty, and then if there was if I wanted my menstruation to come, if it was late or anything, doing the herbal interventions, like the mugwort and getting things flowing again is what I do personally. I think the idea of an IUD scares me. I don't have one and I've never had one, but I had, so I like how you prefaced all this with like, the reason I'm doing this as my job is because I had a lot of trauma and like it kind of led me here. So I had similar trauma from a biopsy on my cervix, and it led to me not being able to have an orgasm for like 4 years. So, so anything like to do with like something going inside my cervix like that is just too traumatic to even think about.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that's why I feel like it's really a personal kind of weighing all the pros and cons of all the things. So much makes up that choice. So one of the main reasons why people have like the brown blood or the clots is plug products. So our uterus, let me show you the picture of the uterus. There's a bleeding uterus. And so literally this hole in the uterus will like open a little bit on the period, and then the blood will come out. And when you have like a tampon there or any of the other products that are like basically used as a plug, that will create stagnation, that will create clots, it will create brown blood, it will create cramping. So cramping is, the function of cramping is to like eject something out of the body. So you will cramp when you are in labor to push a baby out. And people can cramp from plug products because everything is like not able to come out, and it's like trying to like push the product out or push get the uterine cleanse out. And there will be the cramping if someone's having a miscarriage, to push, it's to push something out. So if you're cramping, removing, like eliminating tampons is like one of the easiest ways to start regulating your cycle and like eliminating pain and getting your blood to be like the red, smooth flow.
For me, I was using the cup, which was great to try to get to know your period blood. But like when I noticed mine was mucousy and clotty and dark, for my consultation with you, I stopped using the cup for a while, and along with the other things, eating warm foods, avoiding ice, and just being very warm during my period. All that helped. So I do use a cup sometimes now, but I prefer the organic pads, cotton pads now, or just free bleeding on a towel.
Yeah, so when I'm working with people like I did with Roma, if you're having any imbalances in your cycle or any pain or like a lot of cramping, I do recommend removing the cup, because it's like 50-50, where I'll have you balance everything first, and then once everything's balanced and you don't experience pain anymore, you can reintroduce the cup and see how your body responds. And if your body responds by trying to like cramp and like reject it, then like your body personally doesn't like it. It's 50-50, but that's why I have people balance everything out first, so they can actually tell like what their body is responding to. Because sometimes, you don't know until you've balanced it out. So you guys can look at this in your own time, like the side of stuff that's like, I linked an article here where you can read, there's like a certain chemical in some of the period underwear you want to avoid. Here's a list that's the non-toxic that I do recommend, because there are some period underwears that are good. And here's some good pads. The times that I do recommend tampons, if you're going to use them, definitely get organic ones. There's a lot of like toxic stuff in the regular tampons. I'm an art model, like I have to use a tampon sometimes. Like I do nude art modeling, and if it's my period that day, like I'm gonna use a tampon. Free bleeding's great. I love this quiz. There are a lot of different customized cups, like different lengths, sizes. I recommend it.
Have you tried a disc, Laura? The disc?
I have not.
I got like a pack of them. They were maybe 20 in a package. And
Mhm.
it's got like this ring that looks like those little plastic bracelets people used to wear, like the flat plastic. And it's got this like piece of thinnish plastic that can expand, almost like condom, but it's not latex. So the idea is you wear it and you can have sex still on your period, and you can wear it for 12 hours. And I actually really liked it. If it tilted just so, it would definitely leak. So and it was kind of hard to, remove without making a mess. But that's just another thing. And I'm not really sure what the plastics are, if they're, toxicity levels. I would hope that anything being sold on the shelves wouldn't be toxic, but we all know that that's not the case. And without doing due diligence and research to find out what all is going into and onto our bodies. But I like the idea of the disc.
Yeah.
For sex purposes, I guess, period sex. If you don't want to get bloody, and if you just don't want to have to deal with anything for 12 hours, like if you're working for 12 hours straight, like if I'm at a fair and I just can't have bathroom breaks,
Yeah.
whenever I need them, or running water. I just like the disc is really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um, I just wanted to acknowledge that some people, like for their mental health, some people have trauma around seeing blood, or just body dysphoria, sometimes your work, so sometimes a plug product is necessary. The main reason that people use tampons or resistance that I found is people who are extremely heavy bleeders. And what I tell people is if you can try uh, like being off your feet as much as possible and eliminating the tampons for like a cycle or two, your blood flow will start to decrease because the body sometimes sends more blood to try to like clear out what it'll be like, get this out of my body, so it sends blood to try to flush it out. So you'll start to notice like your bleeding will actually decrease as you stop use, like it becomes a vicious cycle, if that makes sense. um that's a speculum. There's a class called Take Back the Speculum. It's on Zoom right now because of COVID. It's amazing. Sex ed class. You also are taught how to put a speculum in and you can look at your cervix. I love that class. Red raspberry leaf infusion. Here's a little recipe. It is amazing for your uterus, for tonifying your uterus. That's another thing that's you know, things that are like really healthy for the circulation of our uterus would be steaming and the circulation and toning, steaming, red raspberry leaf infusion tea, orgasms, and that's like mostly it. The only other time our uterus is contracting is on our period and then pre-labor and during labor. So orgasms are kind of like exercise for your uterus. and and then the tea and then the steaming, and the more toned your uterus is, the more your body will be able to efficiently shed your uterine lining and have the blood be more red, have there be less clots, et cetera, et cetera.
There's so many different herbal remedies too. The red raspberry leaf is a great like overall uterine any time of the month herb, but there's herbs that are if you want to bleed because you're not bleeding enough, or if you're bleeding too much, it's a different herb, like mugwort can stimulate cleansing and bleeding, whereas yarrow will stop bleeding or stem bleeding.
So that's
There's all
the
kinds of
thing.
different herbs.
I have to go to work. I will send you the slideshow so you can send it out to people. I also have a list of period care. I didn't even go over it, but it's basically, you'll see the list. It makes a huge difference to do. So one of the two main culprits of like brown blood and clots and cramping and like painful periods, it's the plug products, and it's being cold on your period, eating cold things. So on your period, you want to keep your abdomen covered. You don't want to like be submerged in cold water or like sitting, like, being outside, like in a midriff thing, like freezing your ass off. Like those things will cause like constriction, like drinking really cold things. And you can notice your blood will actually turn brown. Like if your blood was red and you go do like a bunch of cold stuff and like put a bunch of cold stuff in your body, you can notice the blood color change. So, you can actually just observe it and see. And then your body will start to cramp more to try to like help push this like coagulated blood out that's like kind of slowing down and getting cold and like constricted. I am so sorry I have to go.
It's okay, Laura. I appreciate you coming in tonight. We had talked about maybe doing it an hour earlier, but I didn't want to get off the schedule. So I appreciate you coming. She's gonna go hold newborn babies all night and help mama with breastfeeding and her postpartum doulaing. So
People
yay.
can post, like, if people have questions, you can post in the Facebook group and I will answer them, or like give a resource, or etc.
Yes, and I'm sure you'll be posting that there, or you'll give it to me to post there as well,
Okay.
which I can do. And I did whip up a little period care slide, the do's and don'ts, basically all the stuff you've told me about. So
Okay,
I
amazing.
will take it from here. And thank you so much, Laura,
You're
for
welcome.
being here.
All right. Bye.
Yeah, if people have questions, we'll take it in the group.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Good night. All right. So awesome. So Laura is just a wealth of knowledge. She's been really instrumental in my interest in women's health and everything. So I'm just kind of going back to the slides that I have. So for me, period care did mean coming off of the cup for a little while, because I was just having heavy bleeding, heavy clots, thick blood, and just switching to eating only warm foods, resting, any kind of exercise was a no-no. So with the 5 rights, there's mirrors in here. Sorry. With the 5 rights, there's a breath practice I do every morning. So it's like the breath of fire where you're forcefully exhaling. That's like a no-no on your period. You don't want to forcefully be pressing your diaphragm down like that. So an alternative breath practice is just the slow, deep breaths, things like that. No cardio, no heavy lifting, no endurance, like exercises, no ice baths, no ice water, actually no ice in drinks ever, preferably, but especially not during your period. Just like drinking coconut water also is cooling, even if it's not iced coconut water. Coconut itself is cooling, just like cucumbers themselves are cooling, as if you think of it on like an Ayurvedic scale. So we want warm, spicy sort of foods that are easy to digest, like soups and stews and khichdi, rice and lentils, beans, spices, layering up, definitely covering up the midriff, like Laura was saying, avoiding going swimming in cold or cool water, even just wearing a bathing suit where your belly is out. You want to keep heat on the belly. Okay, so I did do a couple of just like slides just in case I wasn't sure how long we would have Laura, but there's a picture of a disc here that I tried, and I haven't like really researched enough about the plastics that are on there. They are disposable though, so it was like something I bought just to have like for an emergencies if I'm like working the Renaissance Festival on the weekend and I have my period. These are really great because I can just put it in and forget about it, because I don't always have access to water or toilets or breaks. But I love my Glad rags, the cotton Glad rags. I had some reusable pads that were like a bamboo, and I used them for many years, and I washed them in the sink always with but then would run them through the washing machine, and they just got to smelling really horrible, so I had to get rid of them. Some facts here about like how much. Okay, so tampons are actually banned in the UK for mostly because of the fibers not being cotton. There's dyes, there's residues of all kinds of chemicals, fragrances even in them. And not to mention they are a bit wasteful. They end up in landfills, and I think this chart says in 10 years, almost 3,000 products would be in the trash, the plastic wrapping and everything, the applicators and all that is just very wasteful. Whereas you could go your whole life and just own like 4 cups. But again, for period care, it's not always a good idea to have something blocking the blood from coming out. That's like going against of the flow of the energy. We want things come out. We don't want to hold it there. And I think that's what was causing my cramps so bad. And also cutting out caffeine for me was a big thing. I just watched a talk today about how hormones in food are causing all kinds of imbalances with the menstrual cycles. And there was a woman that had endometriosis to the point it was so bad that she was going to have a hysterectomy at age 30, and she switched to a vegan diet, eliminating the animal products. And when they went in for a consultation, her endometriosis had just stopped. So there's a lot of new research coming out linking hormones in animal products, especially cheeses. So even if you're a vegetarian, if you're eating a lot of dairy and cheeses, you're getting a lot of those hormones, especially because to produce milk, they're giving cows extra hormones to keep producing milk. So there's something to be aware of, and more evidence against eating animal products. Okay, I had a thing about birth control in case she didn't get to it. I'm going to touch on fertility awareness method because we didn't get to talk about that with Laura. And so fertility awareness method, just let me know if anyone is doing this or has heard of it. I actually first heard about it when I was trying to get pregnant. So you can use fertility awareness method either to prevent pregnancy or to help you get pregnant. So I first heard about it in I'm trying to remember the name of the book, but it's like a really famous like how to get pregnant book. If anyone can remember, it's like Know Your Fertility or something like that. But there's 3 body markers that let us know when we're ovulating. So on a normal cycle, when ovulation happens, our basal body temperature is going to go up because of the production of these hormones. So as estrogen increases, it comes to sort of a peak right before ovulation, and it gets to that peak, then the luteinizing hormone and the follicle stimulating hormone are released. So that's going to cause an egg to be released. But what's going to happen is there's this body marker. Your temperature is going to go up by like 0.4 degrees or 0.6 degrees. It's very subtle. You have to have a digital thermometer, and you have to take your temperature immediately when you wake up, like before you go to the bathroom, your eyes open, or you like wake up and you have like a thermometer right there, right next to the bed. You take that's your basal body temperature when you first wake up, and you chart it. You either put it in your period app, or you write it down on a chart. You plot it on a chart like this one here. And your other 2 markers are going to be cervical fluid. That's like the mucus that comes out of your cervix and your glands. It can be either blood, you're on your period, there can be no fluid, okay, sticky, creamy. When it starts to get creamy, you're starting to get more towards ovulating. Those hormones are starting to rise. And when you get that egg white, it's like clear and stretchy. You can actually, feel it. You can go like this and it'll make like a string there. That's your fertile cervical fluid. And then there's just watery. So that's not as fluid. And that egg white consistency allows the sperm to really travel up into the cervix and wherever it needs to go. So if you're trying to get pregnant, you would want to have sex then. If you're trying not to get pregnant, you don't want to have any ejaculate near your cervix when that happens. A little marker is your cervix position. When it's high and soft and kind of open, that's when you're ovulating. And when it's low and hard, you're not. So look for all three of those markers and chart them out. You use a lot of these period apps now. I'm sure probably all of us are using a period app. If you could in the chat, let me know what app you're using. Because I've tried a few. I heard there's a new one that actually it's only available for Apple users, but it's called like Stardust or something where it'll track your cycle and the moon at the same time. I think I was using Flow, but now I'm using, what am I using even? Clue. I'm using Clue. It's like this women-led nonprofit. I don't know that I'm super happy with it. I've actually was thinking about changing. Is there any period app that you guys know of that does allows you to track your basal body temperature and your cervical fluid? If you're using it might be more of a fertility tracker. Glow does. Okay, cool. Maybe I'll try Glow. I think I was on Flow before I got Clue. Cool. I was just reading on the comments. So yeah, fertility awareness method. If you're trying to not get pregnant, don't have intercourse where seminal fluid is entering the vagina during that 3 to 5 days around ovulation. Just use condoms or some other kind of method, abstinence, something like that. Although it would be hard because I know when I'm ovulating, I'm ready for it. So the resources I have here, I've got Laura's website, of course, Reviving Fire, steaming. She's got a lot of information on steam. I really should have started this whole preface with like the disclaimer that we couldn't possibly talk about everything there is to know about periods in one session. I mean, there's Well Woman podcast, I highly recommend. Well Woman podcast, Gemma Lee, she goes into details. Her podcast will be like an hour to 90 minutes long on different topics, but they're all related to our cycles. And there's just like hundreds of podcasts and different topics within period care and cycles and hormones and just so many things. Actually, the Well Women podcast is where I heard that throat yoni connection. It wasn't the first place I heard it, but it is one place that I heard it. Period repair manual. I'm also going to add some links. So some of the things that Laura mentioned and the quiz and everything, I'll put in here before I post it in on the PDF link. Like she mentioned the 5th vital sign. I think there's something I wanted to go back on. So let me just see. This is the hormone sort of spike. So when that estrogen, the gray line goes up high enough, it reaches that.
Sorry, guys, my phone died. Okay. So, yeah, does anyone want to chime in? I think I'm going to stop the recording so that we can share in a safe space, the people that are here still. Um, Stop recording.